Crossing the burning sands. The sun was already setting as Chika stood on the crowded, filthy streets of Lagos. Her fingers clenched tightly around the crumpled note that had cost her all she had. The note was simple, but its significance loomed large in her heart. Go to Agadez, pay Ibrahim. The road to Europe is open. Chika was 22 years old, born and raised in the outskirts of Lagos, where survival was a constant struggle. Her mother, a hardworking woman who sold vegetables at the market, had done her best to give her the chance for a better life. But in a country where hope was often a luxury, it seemed as though Chika had reached the limit of what the system could offer. She had long dreamed of Europe, where the streets were said to be paved with gold, where a future could be built from hard work, and where she could escape the suffocating grip of poverty that had shackled her family for generations. But the reality was much harsher than the stories she had heard. The money she had scraped together from years of working odd jobs had been handed over to a smuggler named Ibrahim, a man with promises of a better life waiting for her beyond the Mediterranean. With no time to waste, Chika joined a group of other hopefuls, women, men, and children, all bound by one shared dream. They boarded a truck bound for the desert, a truck that would carry them through the vast, unforgiving Sahara and into Libya, where the true danger of their journey would unfold. From the very first day, Chika could feel the weight of what she had chosen to do. The truck was packed too tightly, its rusted engine groaning as it trundled through the wilderness. The heat was unbearable, the air heavy with dust that seemed to choke the life out of everything it touched. The driver, a man named Tarek, showed no sympathy for the passengers, his face grim as he kept his eyes on the road ahead, unwilling to acknowledge the suffocating discomfort that surrounded them. Chika had tried to sleep, but the constant rattle of the truck kept her awake. Her body pressed against strangers, the stench of sweat and fear filling her nostrils. The further they traveled, the more desperate things became. Water was rationed, food scarce, and when they hit their first stretch of desert, the silence between the passengers became unbearable. No one spoke much, but they could all feel the same fear. A few days into the journey, the truck broke down. The engine spluttered to a halt, and Tarek's face twisted in frustration. Chika and the others were forced to disembark, their hopes of a quick escape dashed. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere, a barren stretch of sand that seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon. The temperature soared to unbearable levels, and the sun beat down mercilessly on their heads. The reality of the Sahara was nothing like the stories Chika had heard. There were no grand horizons or dramatic sunsets, only a sea of sand that threatened to swallow them whole. As the hours dragged on, the fear began to creep in. They had no water, no food, and no way to know when or if help would come. It was then that Chika began to understand the true meaning of betrayal. Ibrahim had promised them safety, promised them that they would make it through the desert, but here they were, lost, alone, and abandoned. Tarek, who was supposed to be their guide, had turned out to be just another smuggler who cared nothing for their lives. The passengers were nothing but cargo to him, and if they perished, it didn't matter. As the days wore on, people began to fall ill. The lack of water took its toll, their lips cracked and their skin peeling. But the true horror came when the first of the group died. A young boy, no more than 10, succumbed to the desert's cruelty. His body, once full of life, lay still in the sand. And for a moment, Chika thought she might lose herself too. But something inside her refused to break. The strength she had carried with her from Lagos, the stubbornness that had kept her going through all the hardships, surged within her. She refused to die here, in this desolate place. She had made it this far. She could not give up now. It was a few days later, after what felt like an eternity of walking through the blistering desert, that they finally stumbled upon an oasis, a small settlement where smugglers regrouped and refueled. But their relief was short-lived. The smugglers here were even more ruthless than the ones who had abandoned them in the desert. They demanded more money, more supplies, and they were quick to anger at any sign of defiance. One night, as Chika sat by the fireside with the other survivors, she overheard two smugglers discussing their next move. "They are weak," one of them said. "We'll take them to the Libyan border. If they die along the way, it's not our problem." Chika's blood ran cold. The life she had dreamed of, the escape from Nigeria, had never been so far from her reach. She was trapped in a nightmare, and the worst part was that no one seemed to care. But Chika refused to let fear consume her. The next day, when the smugglers began to prepare for the final leg of the journey, she made a decision. She would escape. She slipped away from the others under the cover of darkness, running as fast as her legs would carry her, away from the smugglers and their cruelty. She had no plan, no idea where she was going, but she couldn't stay. She would rather take her chances in the desert alone than trust those men any longer. For 2 days, Chika wandered, surviving on the meager supplies she had scavenged. She was thirsty, hungry, and exhausted, but she refused to stop. She had come too far to die here. And then, on the 3rd day, when she thought her strength was gone, she stumbled upon a caravan, a group of compassionate individuals who had been helping migrants like her. They gave her water, food, and a sense of safety. And for the first time in weeks, Chika allowed herself to breathe. From that moment on, Chika's journey became one of survival. The caravan helped her reach the Libyan border, where she was smuggled into the city of Tripoli. But there was no time to rest. The next part of the journey, the perilous crossing of the Mediterranean, was only days away. Chika knew the risk. She had heard stories of the overcrowded boats, of the capsizing, of the bodies washed ashore, but she had come too far to turn back. When the day came to board the boat, Chika's heart pounded in her chest. The vessel was small, overcrowded with people all desperate to reach Europe. The boat creaked under the weight of so many bodies, and Chika could feel the fear in the air. The engine roared to life, and the boat slowly began to inch away from the shore, heading toward the uncertain waters of the Mediterranean. The crossing was a nightmare. The boat rocked violently in the stormy seas, and Chika held her breath, praying that the boat would hold together. The waves crashed over the side, and people screamed in panic, but Chika refused to give in. She thought of her family in Nigeria, of the life she had dreamed of. She thought of the girl she had been in Lagos, and the woman she had become in the desert. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the boat reached the shores of Italy. Exhausted, broken, and drenched in salt water, Chika stepped onto the land that had seemed so distant, so impossible to reach. She had made it, but she knew deep down that this was only the beginning. Europe was not the paradise she had imagined, but it was a place where she could rebuild, where she could stand on her own 2 feet and create a future. Chika's journey had been one of loss, betrayal, and unimaginable hardship, But in the end, it was also a journey of resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of hope. And as Chika looked out at the new world before her, she whispered to herself, I survived, and now I will live. Thank you for listening to my story. God bless you.